Tony Abreu here with Perceptive Outdoors. In this video, we're going to be talking about 6 things to consider before buying a Sightmark Wraith. So stay tuned. Six things to consider before buying a Sightmark Wraith. Let's go ahead and get into this now. So the first thing to consider, number one, there are 4 physical models of the Sightmark Wraith. There are 2 HD models and now there are 2 4K models. The first model that first came out was the HD 4X, and 4X being the base magnification, or the this lowest magnification that the lens is on, optical magnification. It's an HD model, so it has a little bit less clarity in the sensor and the screen. And then the second one that came out was the HD 2X. So it has a wider field of view. It's a 2X base magnification, or 2 times magnified. And then the third one that came out is the 4K Max, and that one starts at, it has a base magnification of 3 power, or 3 times magnified. And then they just came out with a new one, maybe a couple weeks ago, and it is called the 4K Mini. It's very tiny, and it has a 2X base magnification. So the first thing that we want to consider is, do you want to go with the HD version or the 4K version? The 4K version has a lot more bells and whistles than the HD version. The HD version, in my opinion, is just a simple, effective scope. It's got a low price point and it works very well. I have both the 4X and the 2X. My favorite is the 2X. Hunting in Florida, at least in my area, I have a lot of targets that are close and moving, and having the 4X, it's really hard to pick up a target that's moving when it's close, like within 40 yards. So I like the wider field of view, and so I use the 2X. If you had longer shots, long, wide open fields, the 4X would be a perfect sight for you. So the 4K models, those are going to have a more higher, crispier resolution inside as far as the sensor goes, and the screen that's inside. So it's going to be a little bit more crispy of a picture. One thing to consider though on that is that, from experience, when you have a crispier, higher resolution camera, you're going to need a lot more light to get a better picture at night if you are using it at night. So, but with that being said, the more light you give it, the further you can go, the more clear it's going to be. So that's another drawback there. So the second thing we want to consider before buying one of these is the magnification. Like, what are you going to have most scenarios, and what's going to fit you best? So again, like I said, the first one I got was the 4X. I had way too many times where I couldn't even locate the target in the scope because it was too close. So having the 2X and the wider field of view was better for me. Now, right now I'm currently hunting with a thermal, and it has a 3X base mag, and I like 3X. I probably wouldn't go above that unless, I was out west somewhere with these huge long fields, and that's how that goes. So again, the base magnification on the HDs, you got a 2X and a 4X, and then on the 4Ks you have a 2X and a 3X. So the next thing to consider before buying one of these scopes, and this is really important, is the power source. So when I say power source, now we're going to talk first about the scope, and then we're going to talk about the Illuminator. So on both of the HD versions, they both take 4 AA batteries, or you can open up this port right here and you can power it with an external battery pack. Now, I have used both, and my favorite is using the batteries inside the scope because it keeps you wire free, it keeps you more waterproof. But one thing to note is that these take AA batteries, and the first time I ever used it, I used 4 AA Duracell batteries, and they lasted about 2.5 hours, and I was already popping in another set. So this thing tends to really draw down quick regular batteries. Now, since having this and experimenting a lot and reading other people that have used this, my favorite batteries to use, and there are other batteries besides this, but I use a hybrid battery called a Kentley battery, and it is basically a hybrid AA size battery, and it will, all 4 of them will run this scope for approximately 8 hours, up to 8 hours. And I know that for a fact because I have bench tested that. So there will be a link in the description below. I also have a whole video that I did on power sources for these. I'll put a link in the description below with that too. Using the AA's for me keeps it tight. Having the other kind, you can have, there's all kinds of battery sources for that. There's one battery that I have, it's a little round battery pack. It's 5,000 milliamp hour. It'll run this for up to 8 hours. And then I have a 10,000 square milliamp hour battery pack that will run this for over 15 hours. Both the battery packs that I have used, they have Picatinny rail clamps. So you can either clamp it to the top of the scope. On both HDs have a Picatinny rail. Or you can clamp it to the side of an AR on the Picatinny rail. You just need a rail there. So that's what happens with that. Now, as far as the 4K Maxes go, as far as power sources, the 4K Max actually has an internal battery that will run the scope up to 8 hours. That's really cool because you don't have to worry about putting batteries in it, buying batteries, whatever. It comes with a battery source already in it, and then you charge it up and then it runs. One drawback to that though is if you run it all the way down, you have to plug a pack into it or something, or you have to just charge it because you don't have a way to put a new battery in it. So there's always drawbacks and advantages, but I like the fact that it has an internal battery. That's really cool. The new 4K Mini does not come with batteries. It comes with a slot or 2 slots to put CR123A batteries in, and those should run the scope, they say up to 4 hours. I'm sure if it gets colder, it will be less, and you can buy rechargeables for that, or you can just buy the regular ones, and you can buy them in bulk. I just don't like carrying all that stuff. It's a cool idea, but for me, I don't like the CR123s or 123As. So now let's get into the actual illuminator. So your illuminators, unless you go aftermarket, they all require 2 CR123 or 123A batteries to run. Same thing again, you can get rechargeables for them. For some reason, the rechargeable batteries on a CR123A is like half of the capacity as a regular CR123A. And that's really weird. Like, I know for a fact that Streamlight is like 13 or 14 or 1500 milliamp hour, but if you go to buy a rechargeable, you can only get 800 milliamp hour. So it's kind of weird to me. I don't really like that option. A lot of people use basically a 16650 battery to power these, although it is a different rating and amp rating, but I have never had a problem with that. I don't know if anybody else has either, so don't quote me on that, but I have always used them in these illuminators, the double stack 16650 rechargeable, and it works great. The only other option is because these illuminators are not that good. When I say they're not that good, if you know how to tune this illuminator, you could get 300 yards out of it, but you really have to know how to tune it well. I have videos on that on my channel. I'll link those in the description below. But really, if you want to get maximum distance out of this scope, you're going to want to upgrade your illuminators. There's all kinds of illuminators out there. I actually wrote a post on that. I will link that in the description below as well. I use currently, this is just on here because I use it as a scanner, but my favorite right now, or at least the one that I have, is a Predator Tactics Coyote Reaper XXL. It's quite a bit bigger, it's quite a bit heavier. It uses a 26650 battery. It's big old fat thing, but it runs great, and I can see, it'll throw light over 800 yards. So it just really depends on what you want. I mean, if you're just hunting little small fields, you know, within 100 yards, you don't need all that light, although it's good to have when you do need it. So the fourth thing I want to talk about as far as, you know, buying one of these scopes is none of them come with memory in them. So some scopes, if you buy them, they have internal memory. These scopes do not. Now, there are drawbacks and advantages to that because the fact that it doesn't have one, the disadvantage in my opinion is you have to go buy one. But at the same time, because it doesn't have one and you can put it in, you could actually take the memory card out and put it in your computer and then take the footage off of it instead of having to plug your scope into the computer. So that's an advantage in my opinion. Another thing that I do want to share, they take the little micro SD cards, the very, very tiny ones. But another thing I do want to share, I see a lot of people in the forums, Facebook groups and all that, talking about basically, you know, what's the biggest memory card I can fit in there? Well, I'm just going to tell you from experience, this thing right here has a place inside on the programming that you can view all of the videos and stuff. And I think that's awesome because if you're out in the field, especially with a night vision scope and you take a shot and you want to quickly go back and look and see if you hit what you were shooting at, because things happen fast at night, then, and you have a 128 gig card in here with 1,000 videos, it's going to take you an hour to find the one video you just made. And I know that from experience because it's happened to me. So in my opinion, you really only need like an 8 or 16 gig, you know, maximum in this thing, and it'll do fine. And then whenever you know, maybe do a couple hunts and then take the video off and start over. That way you don't have to go through a bunch of videos trying to find one video that you just needed to find. So that's another cool advantage on that part as far as, you know, keeping the memory low. You don't need to spend a lot of money for a memory card. Just get a 16 gig. It'll suit you just fine, I promise. Now on the 4Ks, you might want to go up a little bit because those are going to eat up a lot more memory. But I wouldn't go up far. I wouldn't put a 128 gig in one. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And like I said, as long as you take them off every time, you should be fine. So the fifth thing that I want to talk about as far as something you should consider is the Illuminator. Now I kind of went over this a second ago, but you know, again, 300 yards max on this thing. And people say, oh, you can't get 300 yards out of this. Well, I disagree. If you look at my tuning video, you'll see that I have a video on there, or in that video, that this thing went 300 yards. Now, it's not super bright, and it's not something that you're going to want to take good video on, but you can still see trees and everything at 300 yards with this. You just have to know how to aim it right. But again, if you're buying this scope just to do videos, you're going to want to upgrade your Illuminator anyways. So that's it for the Illuminator. As far as the last thing that I want to talk about is number 6 is the mount. So all these scopes come with basically a screw mount. It is just a screwable mount. And it works good. And you can actually take it off and put it on other rifles if you want to. But they make a QD mount for this that you can quick snap and get it on and off, and it's easy to change out. But for the mount, there's another thing you need to know as well. Like, what rifle are you going to put it on? Because if you put it on an AR style rifle, then this mount will work great. But if you put it on a bolt action rifle, you're going to have to purchase an extended mount to bring it closer to your eye, because the above the chamber on the bolt action and where the handle is a lot longer and a lot further forward. So you're going to have to get an extended mount to bring it closer to your eye. And I believe that all the mounts work for all the scopes, the HDs and the 4Ks. So that's something that you're going to have to consider. Like, what rifle are you going to put it on? Now, I think it'd be cool to have this on a bolt action, but I don't own a bolt action right now. So I just have this on here because I don't really use this scope. And on my main one that I use, I have a QD mount. And they have those, they have them on Amazon. They have them, you can get them around. I'll put a link in the description below for that. They're just like right around 50 bucks. As far as the extended bolt action mount, I'm not sure how much that one costs. But if I can find a link for it, I'll put it in the description below as well. But yeah, so you're gonna wanna know what kind of mount you're gonna put it on. And like I said, this mount, the ones that come with them work fine, but if you want to be taking it on and off and switching it around, the QD might be better for you. And that's going to pretty much wrap up this video. If you have any questions about any of these scopes, drop a line in the comments below. I'd be happy to help you if I can. Basically, that's it. These are great scopes. I'm sure I haven't really had a 4K, but I know what they are. They're kind of came out after another brand had 4Ks, and I've owned them. And basically, they're all good scopes. Sightmark is a very good company, and they make real quality stuff. And that's going to pretty much do it for this video. So if you like this video, please smash that like button. And if you feel like subscribing for more content like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and move your notification bell to all. And that's pretty much it for this. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.